On this episode, we see how technology can help catch red light runners. Then we head down to Chattanooga, Tennessee, where pedestrians are part of a revitalized downtown. Walk Austin works to improve that Texas city. Heads in Atlanta uses whistles to catch the attention of drivers. We take a look at Postcards from Russia. And finally, we eavesdrop on the ProBike, ProWalk conference in Santa Barbara. Stay tuned. We're in Virginia talking with Richard Redding, who's a senior transportation engineer with the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. What is the Institute?
The Insurance Institute is a nonprofit research organization supported by insurance companies. We're dedicated to reducing injuries and fatalities and making roads safer.
What sort of problem has there been with red light running in this country?
Red light running is an enormous problem. Red light running is more than a nuisance. It's a safety hazard. It attributes and contributes to over 260,000 crashes each year and over 800 fatalities. It's a very large part of the road safety problem.
Is this problem getting better or worse?
We have not been able to measure over time whether the red light running problem has gotten better or worse. The consensus is it's gotten worse. In fact, the number of fatalities at intersections has grown by about 20% in the last 5 years. So, if anything, it's getting worse.
And there's something called photo enforcement. What is that? How does it work?
Well, photo enforcement is a mechanism that's been around for decades, used in Europe and Australia, and gradually making its way to the United States. It's a method for ensuring that motorists comply with traffic signals in cities where, up until now, they have had little enforcement and little motivation to follow red light rules. Red light cameras are simply mechanisms that are in place 24 hours a day that are able to identify and ticket motorists that go through red lights. More importantly, though, they provide a deterrent. Many drivers who would run red lights do not because they know that these systems are in use.
And where they've been put into use, what's been happening with the number of violators? First when they're first in place and then over time?
We have evaluated the effect of camera enforcement in two cities, Fairfax City, where we are today, and in Oxnard, California, on the other side of the country. We found in both cases, even though the laws are very different and the penalties are different, during the first year of enforcement, there's about a 40% drop in the violation rate. At this particular intersection, which is right downtown in the heart of the city, there was over a 50% drop in red light running. So the cameras are having the effect that we hoped they would have.
So, how many places are using them now?
Right now, in early 1999, there are about 24 cities in the U.S. With active programs, and that is growing. I suspect it will be over 30 in the near future.
Are there obstacles if a city is interested and wants to get started? What has to happen first?
Well, first there needs to be a law in most cases. On the state level, there needs to be legislation that allows cities to establish such programs. Once there is a state law, then cities typically need to implement an ordinance or a local law permitting such enforcement. So those are two obstacles that must be overcome. In many states, those are being overcome. And quite successfully. Beyond that, the issue of mechanics, logistics, procurement, arranging for contractual services, and so on. One obstacle, however, is not public support, because we find that nationwide, and especially in cities that are using these programs, over 80% of the residents support this type of enforcement.
You know the intersection. You turn here every day.
Come on, come on.
But today you're running late. And you think you just can't wait. The light is red for a reason, so stop. A safety message from the Federal Highway Administration.
We're talking with John Veneziano, who's Director of Public Works for the City of Fairfax in Virginia. You've installed a couple of red light cameras in the city. What got Fairfax interested in that?
Well, in 1995, the General Assembly passed a statute enabling cities like ours to put in red light camera systems. We had a council member who was very interested in seeing us do that, and just kind of grew from there. And we put our first installation in July of '97.
How did you pick the location? What went into that?
A combination of things. We looked at accident statistics, we looked at traffic volume, we talked to the police officers to see where they gave out red light running tickets and where it was difficult for them to give them out for various physical reasons.
And once it was in place, what did you find out? How many people were running the light?
We probably expected maybe 20 or 30 a day, and when we started, it was more about like 75 a day. It was a lot more than we'd ever imagined. Since the cameras have been in, we've seen about a 40% reduction in the frequency of red light running. We've had through January about 17,000 citations issued so far, and that's with 2 cameras, with the second one being added about 6 months into the program.
Are you going to be adding more cameras?
Probably. We haven't made a firm decision yet, but I think we'll probably be adding at least one more in the near future, and possibly others. We'll have to see how the number of violations goes, whether it continues to go down at a steep rate or whether it plateaus, and how effective the program is overall.
What sort of reaction have you gotten? Was the public surprised how bad it was?
The public has been very supportive. I think we've got over an 80% favorable rating in some surveys that were done, and the people that I talked to at civic association meetings are all very supportive.
It's one of the first localities in Virginia to have the cameras in place. Do other places come to you to ask about your experience?
All the time. I think there are about 5 or 6 other local jurisdictions that have started programs or just about to start them. I've gotten calls from quite a few states around the country, been asked to speak at conferences and so on, so there's a tremendous amount of interest.
If you knew what I know, if you'd seen what I've seen, then you'd understand why I do what I do.
People who run red lights are the cause of more crashes every day. And in this area, we're going to stop them for good.
You're good.
A safety message from the Federal Highway Administration.
We're in Chattanooga, Tennessee, talking with David Crockett, who's chair of the City Council and president of the Chattanooga Institute. What is the Institute?
Well, the Chattanooga Institute was started with private money to really build on a lot of what Chattanooga had done around the notion of building cities in a different way and approaching company problems in a different way, more sustainably. And that involves transportation, urban design, and innovative manufacturing, combined with a good civic infrastructure. So we have worked to pull those things together in Chattanooga, and we also work across the country and some internationally doing that.
30 years ago, Chattanooga was a troubled city. What were the problems that you had?
Well, if you look behind us at that mountain that you can't see because it's a rainy, foggy day today, that would have been a sunny day, an average day 30 years ago. Chattanooga is in Appalachian Mountains, has great natural resources in this area, and was an early industrial center in this part of the country. That led to a great deal of prosperity, but this little river valley that's surrounded by mountains and is, we think, arguably one of the most scenic settings that you could possibly have a city, became shrouded in the product of that prosperity. And we were called the most polluted city in America just prior to the first Earth Day by the Secretary of HEW. Not a good bumper sticker for the Chamber of Commerce. We had neglected to keep that fine balance that we now understand as building a sustainable city, one that views the environment, economics, the community, equity as one subject, not separate subjects to trade off or try to balance somehow.
In recent years, your downtown's made quite a comeback.
Sure.
What have you done to achieve that?
Well, it doesn't just happen one thing at a time or one clap of thunder and you have a meeting and everybody skips down the street and you go, oh, that's not how cities work any more than natural systems work. But there were some significant things. We lost our downtown completely. We also had an economic downturn, a very dramatic one in the 70s. And we were going through all the social issues of the time. So we needed the equivalent of a quadruple bypass. We had just had a massive heart attack and had a morale problem to boot. What we did was call upon the leadership in our private sector and from the government, but mostly from the citizens. We organized in a way that we could get the input and a visioning exercise in the 80s after a great deal of work had been done by the public and private sector to clean up the air in the 70s and start to address some environmental issues. Out of that visioning process came a great number of goals around which we gained consensus. Some of the project ideas came out of that, but not all of them. But we put in place the mechanisms to hear an idea. And I think that's the genius of any city or any company, is being able to hear an idea from as many places as possible, from any source, and recognize its value from wherever it comes, and then have an implementation mechanism in place that can take vision and put it into action. And we did that with public-private partnerships. Out of those have come restored downtown. Behind us is a glimpse of the riverfront in Chattanooga, which was not accessible 10 years ago anywhere along this river. And at the literal site of the start of our city, where Chief John Ross had his trading post, the principal chief of the Cherokee Nation, and where the Trail of Tears began, right behind us, now stands a wonderful aquarium, the largest freshwater aquarium in the world, done by the same architect who has done Boston and Baltimore and others. And you see housing around it and walkways, and we're standing on a pedestrian bridge, a bridge that was to be torn down because it was no longer fit for automobiles, which is an interesting value statement about a city. Not fit for automobiles, therefore has no value, but it took us, like it has many cities across the country, it really took us struggling with that to say, no, it's not fit for an automobile, but it would make more sense to make it a pedestrian link across our river to different parts of the city. The areas that were boarded up and both residentially and commercially were not viable at all are now full of life. And we've learned through the creation of a riverfront system that will eventually be nearly 35 miles, connecting with a greenway network running along riparian zones and crisscrossing the city and region of nearly 150 miles, that every one of these walkways that we have built has had more effect on connecting our folks with the natural part of a city, where they appreciate that more, value it more. It's built a respect for the natural systems, but it's built a respect for the city. It's built a respect between the people and a value. And I think when we look retrospectively at all of this 10 or 15 years from now, more than the great projects like the aquarium and other things that we've done downtown, the thing that we'll point to as the renaissance resurgence of our city will be the fact that we can put people on their feet, that it has become a place that has a sense of community because it has the connections that are brought about by making it more walkable. We have come to a point where we believe that every road we don't build is progress, and that's different than the last 20 or 30 years when we thought the path to progress was paved with asphalt across America. That's not the case. We've still got a riverfront road here that I hope that I get to see closed within a decade. That traffic rerouted, this area continuing to have more housing, more livability downtown. We hoped for that 10 years ago, or we dreamed about it 10 years ago. We hoped for it 5, 6, 7 years ago. And now it's happening, and it's the connection to these walking paths has got to be one of the prime reasons. These folks can live across the river, and they walk right over here. They walk over to the Art Museum, a wonderful park behind us that we've just made an exchange with the Navy Reserve, moved some artillery pieces out of there that the Marines had, and down the river to another place, and now in just a wonderful park with a carousel will be there.
We're in Austin, Texas, talking with Steve Rogers of Walk Austin. What is Walk Austin?
Walk Austin is a pedestrian advocacy organization here in Austin. We try to make things better for pedestrians here in Austin. So that includes a lot of things, I guess.
How long has Walk Austin been around?
It's been around since 1993. And it's gone through some different changes and different groups of people who've been involved. I've been involved in it since 1995. And
what are some of the issues you've been dealing with? What are the big problems pedestrians face here?
Well, we have a lot of big problems. Austin is a sprawled out city, like a lot of new cities are, or maybe cities are all over the place. And because of that, things are far apart. It's very car oriented. Texas is, I guess, the wide open spaces, right? So people like to spread out and live far apart, and they work everywhere and live everywhere, so that the commuting patterns and transportation patterns are kind of from everywhere to everywhere, which makes it difficult to spend a lot of money or a lot of effort making places nice for walking. You have to go long distances, and that makes it difficult. So that's just sort of an inherent problem with the nature of our city, and that's not the fault of anyone, except that maybe planning somewhere along the way throughout the last decades has led to that, but I think it's pretty typical. Because of that, though, the infrastructure isn't what you would like it to be if you do a lot of walking. So you have infrequent crosswalks across very busy streets that are difficult to cross. You have missing accessibility features like curb cuts, so that someone who needs that, someone in a wheelchair, might need to go even further to be able to get across the street. You have a lot of sidewalks that are built right up against the curb of very busy streets, so when you are walking on them, you are somewhat disturbingly close to cars passing quite fast. And what we like to do with Walk Austin is wherever we can in local venues, remind people that we need to pay attention to this. And so we will go and petition the city council and speak before them when they have something, an issue before them that relates to pedestrian infrastructure. We'll go to the planning commission and talk to them when they're considering a sidewalk variance or something like that. we're here in the capital of Texas. We haven't done much with the state legislature, but we're planning to try to, this next year, maybe see whether we can influence some adjustments to the pedestrian code, or the codes, actually the traffic codes. The pedestrians are an afterthought to the traffic code, so improve the language of some of the laws there. Anything we can do, basically.
What is the most important role for Walk Austin?
Our role is to make sure that we are there to remind the community when it's making decisions that pedestrians are here, and we need to keep doing that because it's easily overlooked apparently in these when these decisions are made to build roads, and they don't include crosswalks and sidewalks and curb cuts. Someone needs to remind the city and other government bodies to do this. We also want to encourage people to walk, and we get in a position sometimes of complaining about things a lot when we go and ask for things, but there's a lot of good qualities about a city like Austin, that it is a nice place to walk anyway, despite all of this. And just being out there walking around makes it so people can see that. Maybe we can influence some people to join us, I guess, as far as just as pedestrians. But I think probably wherever there are in any city, it would be nice if no matter how small a group or big a group it is, somebody ought to be standing up and saying, let's not forget about these things. And it may seem futile sometimes, but I think it's a good thing to make sure that you just don't go silent. So that's our role, is to keep this issue from just falling off the face of the earth like it would, I think, if it was left to the transportation department or whatever all by itself. So.
We're in Atlanta, Georgia, talking with Sally Flox, who's president of Pedestrians Educating Drivers on Safety, or PEDS. Why is it you carry a whistle?
It's my way of stopping motorists from turning into the crosswalk when I'm using it. So often the drivers are only looking for clear space. They're not looking in the crosswalk. That's their favorite excuse when they hit somebody, is I didn't see them. So I make sure that I am heard.
That gets their attention?
That gets their attention, even if they're in their well-insulated car and listening to the radio or on the cell phone. It stops them. I use my arm. Depends on how bad the intersection is, but I act as much like a cop as I need to, and it works. So I think it's a great way for pedestrians to protect themselves. The national government also often encourages pedestrians to be conspicuous. They're usually saying wear bright colors, wear little caps that are reflective. I don't think that's very practical in the real world, but I think wearing a whistle or keeping it in your pocket is something pedestrians can do, and it really works.
Our correspondent in Russia has been taking a look at some of the problems pedestrians face in that distant land. First, the parking skills of many drivers are limited, and pedestrian spaces get no respect. If the streets are full, the sidewalks become the parking lot. Second, maintenance is lacking on the infrastructure. At least someone put a branch in place to warn you of this peril. Third, construction standards are lacking. Efforts were made to build a curb ramp here, but the results are not usable by any standard wheelchair. Some other designs are not any better. Wherever you are in the world, making a good pedestrian environment takes thought and effort. With all of their other problems, the Russian government hasn't been able to give pedestrians much of either.
My name is Bill Wilkinson. I'm Executive Director of the Bicycle Federation of America. On behalf of us, our sponsors, local hosts, and a team of hundreds, I'd like to welcome you to ProBike, ProWalk 98, the 10th International Conference on Bicycle and Pedestrian Programs.
Currently, we've really worked very hard, and as I said, getting our act together with regard to facility planning, facility designing. We've also worked very hard looking at education programs, not only for bicyclists and pedestrians, but also for motorists, and we need to do more in that area as well. We've also worked very hard looking at enforcement programs to see what we can do to better conditions for bicyclists and pedestrians. But we need to do more than that. We need to look at planning and design of facilities so that bicyclists and pedestrians are always included in the design of transportation facilities. We need to look at education programs so that bicyclists and pedestrians are always included in education programs. We need to look at our transportation policies and make sure that bicyclists and pedestrians are always included in our transportation policies and included in a meaningful way. And finally, we need to strengthen the bonds we have with other modes of transportation. I mentioned some work that we've done with the Federal Railroad Administration on Rails with Trails. There's a new brochure out on how bicycling and walking can enhance the use of transit. We need to look at the Intelligent Transportation System, ITS, and see how bicycling and walking can contribute to that. We really need to work to see that bicycling and walking are always included in every transportation decision that's made in this country. Our history, and some of you don't know our history, is that bicyclists and pedestrians have been included as an afterthought. They've been included as the exception instead of the rule. And I think if we're going to succeed in this, we need to figure out how bicycling and walking fit into our overall transportation system, into solving the problems of that transportation system, to making it a better system, so that instead of being exceptions, including bicycling and walking in all transportation decisions becomes the rule. Thank you.
Visit us on the internet at www.pedestrians.org.